All right, Jay. Well, we are live now, or recording at any rate. And I'm doing this a little different than normal in that we are totally impromptu. I didn't give you any lessons ahead of time. And I didn't even really do a big introduction because I think we're gonna have so much fun just doing it as part of the talk. Like I will lead with, but in a less formal way than normal, the fact that you and I have been friends ever since we were cadets together in the early 90s at University of Tampa, right? So
Back in the day.
um yeah. So it's been a long, long time, and then of course we went on in our respective lives, and well, we both went military for a while, but you stayed longer, and in
Yep.
fact retired as a
Long
colonel.
time. Long time, yeah.
Long time. In fact, retired as a colonel. So thank you for your service, and we are super proud of and grateful for that.
Mm. Well,
And
yeah, likewise.
yeah, and actually, let's start there. Actually, before I say anything else about you and what you do, and actually, let's start with this fun note. We had this thing scheduled for today, and if it was like a normal person without the military background, I probably would have assumed that they were going to reschedule. But I was like, yeah, it's a storm. Go on, we're looking for stuff to do. Let's so I knew you'd be up for it. And I think it's a great time for us to talk. And so why don't we start with a little bit about your experience and how that military leadership experience prepared you. You could talk a little bit freestyle to leadership in general, but you could also talk specifically to stuff like this, right? Like obviously we respond differently to
Well,
to
pretty
pressure.
much everything, yeah. Pretty much
Yeah.
everything is different when you have the army or military brain. Other branches have the same problem, mental illness that we have. So but yeah, like the things that most people look at as problems, or a reason not to do something or whatever, to me anyway, it makes it more of a challenge or more entertaining, because we have a daily life, and that's blah, blah, blah. You do the same thing every day. But all right, now we got cat 4-ish coming in somewhere. Cool, level up.
Yeah, exactly right.
But in the old joke, if it ain't raining, we ain't training.
Yeah.
Or it's not training. Yeah. So it seems like nothing worth doing is simple. So let's just ratchet up the suck a little bit. Let's make it rain sideways.
Yeah.
It's not quite there yet. I came back in off, because my home office is on the patio out back, but and I was out there till about 15 minutes ago, and it's just a little too noisy out there to good sound. Otherwise, I'd still be out there. So I mean, it's I don't think I've ever been cured of being an outside dog. Like I'm not an office person.
Yeah.
I don't like being inside if I can avoid it.
Yeah. I think you hit on something really relevant that is actually an overlap between something we teach in my martial arts academy, and of course probably I really had stolen probably from military life, which is that anything that happens can be an excuse or a reason, right? Like, and I think that not to look, certainly not to downplay at all. In fact, I was one of the I wasn't even going to close. I didn't want to close. I was being a hard hit. And then I got my team and I looked at what was going on. I said, okay, look, it makes sense to close the rest of the week and let,
well,
and
you have a responsibility as well. I mean, it's not even, of course you can make it in, but then your team has to make it in, then there are going to be people that, because you have a very loyal, student base there, that they're going to feel obliged, or they're going to kind of take it as that challenge, and they're going to want to come in, and it's missing a day or two is not going to set you back on your black belt journey. It's okay. You can train at home. I'm sure you sent out some stuff for people to train at home.
I sure did.
we got the bag.
Yep.
I got my little man kicking shit for home. So
that's awesome.
He comes over tomorrow. We'll get out here.
That's outstanding.
Stuff,
well, I'm glad you said that, because I certainly did that. Like what I did on Monday as I was making the decision was I created this whole email that actually I've sent out every day this week now. I hope some people are taking advantage of it. I haven't seen any posts yet, but I took some of the old videos that we made in the last contingency when it was Sensei Kyle and Sensei Sarah and Sean Harley and I, and we were forced to not have anybody else with us because of the whole pandemic thing. And
Oh,
And
yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah, and so we had actually created that. We had actually used that week to create a bunch of videos, and so I put some of those up as challenges in the group. And anyway, yeah, there's certainly enough to do, and then we'll be back Saturday. And it's going to be great. Really, my point was going to be on the other hand, like like I'm getting a lot. I'm getting a lot of work done just sitting
Oh,
around during the day,
yeah.
just doing focused, quadrant 2 planning and stuff like that. But here's the other thing is like, I've been doing really, really great with my diet, right?
I know.
So
I watched the keto stuff.
thank you.
That's very
Yeah.
difficult to maintain. I looked into it. I'm not that. I'm
Well,
not that.
I'm doing that, and I'm doing a 4-hour eating window daily.
Yeah.
And that's really my point, is that like I'm not letting this change that, right?
Oh,
Like the thing is, it could easily for some reason become an excuse to sit around and foil my goals.
yeah.
And I'm not bragging. This isn't like what do they call that thing where you
Humble
like,
brag.
yes, it's not that thing where I forget the word, but one time I made a post about putting the carts away, and somebody said, "Oh, you're something or whatever." Who
Yeah.
cares?
No. Well, people are always going to find a reason to crap on what you do because they're not
Yeah.
willing to do it. And I've been working on all my backlog of admin stuff and working on all my marketing stuff. So I have open enrollment coming up for my day job coming
Yeah.
up in a couple of months. So if you're going to be stuck at home, like, oh darn,
Yeah.
take advantage of the opportunity. Not just binge Netflix and veg. Like there's
Yeah.
stuff to be done. Let's get
Yeah. And again, we're not, neither one of us is being judgmental, but
no.
I am saying that, look, the people that do, if you don't do something productive with the time, and
Yeah.
we're not responding directly, because look, it would be different if the thing would have stayed on the track that it was projected
Oh, heck
originally.
yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, it would have been a little harder. We would not have the power to do this right now. There'd be more circumstances. But my point is, if we use it as, on the other hand, an excuse to do nothing, then here's the problem: is it's very often the same people that then are complaining after about the lost time and all the things, and right, like, and it just drives me crazy. People that can be complaining about they don't have time to do the stuff and blah 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 blah, and then all of a sudden they're given some time like this, and they don't use it in a positive and productive way. And of course, this isn't the purpose of this podcast, but like I said, we're just talking, right? Like,
Time's going to pass either way. You have a choice in large part what to do with it. And so, and I'm not perfect either. I mean, TV's been on,
yeah,
and I'll do all my time, time distraction things. I'll go put these things away. I'll go clean this. I'll go do that. And
yeah,
that's not the work I'm supposed to be doing, but
yeah.
it's,
Well, let's think about that, and then I'm gonna ask you something
yeah,
about your day job you just said. But the last thing about that is, like, on the other hand, like I'm also got a little more extra quality time with Barbara. But the agreement we made was, I'm working all during the day. I'm doing what most people
yeah.
call a day, like an 8-hour day working, and then in the evening I'm actually taking it off. It's when I go into my eating window, I relax with her, and we do watch. Like, we watched Navy SEALs last night. SEALs is back.
Oh my
Great.
God.
Oh,
And the TV show, not that horrible movie.
oh, no, the TV show. Yeah, yeah. The TV show is good. They
Yeah,
anyway,
I remember the movie though. The 80, oh my God, that movie.
I never watched the movie, but I heard it
Oh,
was
so bad.
so. Listen, and I want to go back and talk a little bit about your military career in this thing too, but right now I want to talk about your day job because you brought it up, and since you are a member of our KMMA tribe, people need to know you're available there for them. So tell them a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, like I used to have a cool job. I used to blow stuff up and do army stuff, and that was cool. But then it came time to retire, and the old when I was a youngster, young lieutenant, the old timers that were in their 30s, would say, oh, you'll know when it's time to retire. You'll know when it's time to go do something else. I'm like, whatever, old man, I'm gonna be a general. And then I hit about that 17-year mark. Retirement sounds pretty good. I got kids, I got it's time to go do something else. And completely accidentally wandered into insurance. So I do health, life, and Medicare. Super exciting. But it kind of is like I get to help people.
Yeah.
I get to work from home. Like this is home office number 2. So I get to wear shorts and work how I want to work. I mean, I still work my butt off, but But when you're wearing shorts and you don't miss any of your kids' stuff, it's kind of worth the trade-off for sure. But I do under 65 health insurance, small business owner, employer insurance, all the accident, dental, vision, all that stuff. And then the big one that's coming up is Medicare for 65 and over. That starts in mid-October. So in Florida and Arizona are like the two biggest, have the oldest average populations of any states in the country. So it's important. And the commercials are everywhere. Oh my gosh, every podcast I listen to has Medicare ads in them now.
Yeah.
But that's and mostly what I like to do. And then I'll just the one last thing is just answer questions. To me, like the value added is just being able to answer people's questions and not be a douchey insurance salesman. I hate those people. I work all by referral. So if I take care of somebody, I answer their questions the best that I can. And there's no quid pro quo. There's no arm twisting. It's here's the answer. Here's what I think. Do what you want to do.
Take care of us, and that's the reason I brought it up. Really was so that I'm kind of referring you to my tribe here. That if they need some help with some health insurance, or that they should check you out.
People want to work with people they know, and they want to know that they can find you if they have questions, or they can find you if you do them wrong. And I do this all year. I'm easy to find. I only have one phone number. So, and if they're my clients, they have it. So I answer text messages from the ER. I get phone calls from urgent care on Sunday. Like, doesn't matter. I'll answer it. If you're on my phone, I'm going to answer it. Well, and it's usually, I'm not like, again, like not like you're saying before with the cards. It's not like, oh, look at me, I'm awesome. No, that's just what you do.
Right.
If you make it, you make it agreement with somebody, like, I'm going to take care of this stuff for you. I'm your guy. And if you want to answer the phone, are you really their guy? So it's an easy trade to make. My kids can probably explain Medicare to people at this point. They've heard me do it so many times on the phone. So I bet they could actually. I'm going to test them on that. But but like I said, it's not super exciting to most people, but it's one of those things that every human needs.
Yeah.
So they may as well work with somebody who's gonna, do right by them.
So Jay, now I'm gonna step back. I'm gonna ask you some questions about your military experience first. Colonel Ellison, talking to Colonel Ellison now, and it's because we are a leadership podcast. We're a leadership podcast because we're a leadership development academy that also happens to teach the most practical self-defense in the world. And so we can really talk on both those things because it's kind of cool. You've been my student, on and off for years, and now you're back and you brought your son. But like I said, long before that, we were cadets together at the University of Tampa. Then you went off and did a career as an Army engineer, and then you came out and you started your civilian career and your family, and like I said, and then the next thing you know, you're back in my leadership community. So starting back to the leadership community that is the military, because I do believe some of my best lessons came from that experience in the Army.
Oh, 100%.
I believe that our time together at the University of Tampa and the Reserve Officer Training Corps was the beginning of my true leadership development. And so what I'd like to do is let's go into your military career time. Talk a little bit about some of the things, in general that you most appreciated about that time and experience, but then specifically as far as some of the leadership development and or lessons that have been most relevant to your whole life.
Well, we were talking the other day, and you and I both basically been working since we were teenagers, and both did the enlisted thing first. So because my family, like, both my parents worked, they worked their butts off, but college was not going to get paid for. So I joined the Army. So I was in the reserve and the guard here in Tampa. I was a medic, and then eventually got the ROTC scholarship and went to UT where we met. And so I worked full time. I did ROTC. I went to school full time. No wonder my grades were not awesome, but it was a great experience. But going into the Army as an officer, and then they have, you remember what the branching process is like. It's like the draft in football. You put in your requests, you get what you get. The Army decides, they take turns, they pick the people they want. And engineer was my second choice. And I was grateful every damn day I was in the Army after that I didn't get my first choice, because I would have been bored to tears as a medical service officer uh, running hospitals. And we have friends that did that, and they did their four and they got out because they were bored in
Yeah,
tears.
yeah.
So I got to play in the dirt and run around and blow stuff up. But you meet all these people along the way, and for better or for worse, for good or for bad, they all leave you with something.
Mm.
And those are the voices in the back of your head when when you don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to make that extra, trip to the gym, or you don't want to go do something for work you're supposed to do. You hear that voice in the back of your head. Get up, Blade. Get up, you lazy private. What is wrong with you? What is your major malfunction? And words I won't say on your podcast. I'm going to keep it clean. But those voices are very prominent. And all along the way, good examples and bad examples, because I used to keep the green notebook that we know well.
Yeah.
I'd have a column on one side for things to do, and then another column for things not to do.
Wow.
And I kept that for years. I wish I still had it. Like, converted it to back when Palm Pilots were a thing. Remember those?
Yeah.
I was a company commander. I had a cell phone and a Palm Pilot, and I thought I was like, an astronaut. That was like the high tech. That was amazing. And now it's just like, that's like your kids look at those and think it's like an abacus or something. But yeah, it's like, keep all that, so eventually when your turn comes to stand in front of people, you have everything that you've read, everything you've experienced, everything you've screwed up. And the Army's, they have a phenomenal AAR system, after action review system, where you do an exercise, and whether it's a planning exercise just on paper, or an actual, tactical thing with tanks and blanks and all that stuff, and so, like, some places they have cameras and they follow you around with cameras, or they just have an observer with a clipboard that follows you around the whole time and doesn't say, just follows you around. And like, you do don't go in the bathroom, maybe give me a minute. Like, not there, like, they don't go in the bathroom with you, but they wait, and they just track, how do you use your time, what decisions do you make, what decisions do you fail to make, what did you know at the time that you made the decision, and then when it's over, you sit down with that person and they give you an assessment, and that's not always fun. It's very seldom fun, actually.
Absolutely. And you've hit, I'm gonna slow it down just because you've hit two or three, but I want to talk about at least two of the really, really important leadership concepts you've brought up, I think. And I'm actually going to start with the closer one, because I want to spend more time on the first one. The closer one was the after action review process, and we still use it extensively. In fact, I of course created an acronym. I love acronyms. Like, maybe that's a leftover from the military too, but I create them to teach things in my dojo, and I created one that sounds like a martial arts term, parry, but it's very much like our after action review process. And its parry is plan, act, review, improve, and it's the after action review process, basically, right? But with the planning process on it too. And then, but the other thing that you mentioned specifically about the AAO process was this outside, I'm gonna use the term mentor. They weren't necessarily mentors per se, but that's the relevance. Right. That's the relevance to this, right? Like, somebody on the outside looking in and seeing the things you can't see because you're in the fight.
Yeah.
That's just such an important concept. And certainly, true, whether you're talking military experience, whether you're talking a fighter in the ring, whether you're talking, going through our business or our regular lives. Like, we all need that kind of coach and mentor to keep us on the straight and narrow. But the one you mentioned even before that I want to spend a little time on, because I think, I don't think it's done enough. And I think it's amazingly powerful. You did it. I did it too. And so thankful I did. And so we need to tell our tribe here to do it, is the idea of walking around and taking those notes on, man, these are the guys I want to emulate. These are the things that I want to do when it's my turn, which was important language, when it's my turn. Because these days people want to lead before they are ready, right? But
be the boss till it comes time to do boss stuff. And
absolutely. But the thing that my students and my tribe should be listening to is, man, while you're in that development stage, while you're in followership and preparing for leadership, absorb the good, bad, and ugly, right? Like, and take notes on these are the things I absolutely want to do because of the way that guy led me, because of the way that guy developed me, because of the way that guy or girl made me feel. And those are the things I'll never do. And not to, I know I'm speaking more than I should, considering I'm interviewing you, but I got to mention this one thing. This is a story I don't tell very many people about the development of our dojo. And this goes back to my military days, but at this moment in time, I'm talking, of course, decades and decades ago, but I was a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo, training at a school in Fort Eustis, Virginia, at this moment in time. And so we start the class, and while and by the way, this, the whole time I was in the military, I was still training and I was still teaching. I was teaching in little community centers, but at this moment in time, I was training, not teaching in this particular community because it was early on. I'm like a second lieutenant. Yeah, I'm a second lieutenant. Anyways, long story short, so we're training, and this gentleman walks in. This older gentleman walks in late, and this Korean instructor berates him in front of everybody, drops him to do push-ups, and in the process of doing it, tells him that he has no discipline. And the funny thing is, I remember, and by the way, I was in push-up position too, because we all did push-ups with him. That was the thing. The funny thing is, there I am, and I'm looking up, and I remember thinking to myself, and it's funny because I didn't even have a strong vision that I was going to open a dojo one day, but maybe this was one of those God glimpses of the future, because the thought that I had from that push-up position, I remember it like it was yesterday, was, man, when I own a dojo one day, I will never treat somebody like that. And it's funny because this guy, I happen to know he was a major, and he was an Army surgeon. Like he was and this instructor's telling me he has no self-discipline. It was such a formative moment for me.
Well, it's funny too that you can recognize that difference too, because like the Army part of your brain is like, you're late. The worst thing in the world is to be late, slacker, so there's that part of your brain was like, of course you should do push-ups and get dragged in front of people. Like that's how the Army does things.
Right.
But like, that's not a terribly developmental process. That's a blunt force trauma way of making your point, which is why I still get cold sweats when I'm late for things. But you're not teaching anybody anything other than why you shouldn't come back to this class or why you shouldn't spend your money at this business. Exactly. You could just as easily take that person aside after and go, hey, it's distracting to the class if you come in late, or is there something I need to know, and handle it that way, which is, I know how you would handle it because I know you, but you could tell if somebody comes in that they've got a look on their face and they're late, nothing you say to them is going to make them feel worse than they already feel.
Exactly. Well, and
so what's the point? And
like I said, the other contradiction in this place was, obviously this guy has discipline. He's a major in the Army.
He's a freaking doctor.
He's a doctor.
Don't give those away.
And you're sitting here, like you have no clue what you're saying, and you're saying it to this gentleman, right? Like, because this was just like a contractor for that's teaching on base, right? Like, so anyways, that part kind of irrelevant to our original point. I just wanted to make the point that it was actually a very useful moment to me, because I was able to take that column you were talking about. Like, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really the point, is we should always be looking to the things that we should and the things that we shouldn't emulate for our leaders. I think that was a great leadership point that you made. Is there, before we move on to the next part of the call, is there any other like military experience or lessons that you'd like to continue on?
No, I think it just, and I think temperament has a lot to do with it, because everybody has a different temperament, and I've never been a big guy. I've never done sports. I'm, 3 feet tall and silly. So you have to know who you are and what your effective style can be when you talk to people, and stay authentic to that. So like for me, the, make a joke or go talk to somebody and it's like, hey, like, this isn't like you. What's up?
Yeah.
This is not, you and I both know that was not your best effort, and you're not saying it in a, what the is wrong with you, loser. You're saying it in like, okay, what's up with you? and then you can kind of dig in and find out, and you find out they need extra training, they need this, they need that, they're having something in their personal life. Because like when you're a leader 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
And I mean, in that context anyway, you're responsible for them their whole life.
Yeah.
Less so in the civilian world, obviously, but if you're invested, you care about them as a person, you care about what's going on 24/7. You want to make sure they're okay, because they're not going to be a good team member, they're not going to be a good student, they're going to be a risk to themselves or others if they're not paying attention.
Yeah.
So the person that's holding the pad for you, or if I'm holding the pad for you and I'm not paying attention because I'm thinking about this or that, I'm going to eat an elbow.
Yeah.
And that's no fun. So it matters. So there was a point in there somewhere.
Well, I think it's great leadership advice. For the first part, you're just giving up, of course, great leadership advice from your experience about how to lead someone. And I'll confess that, ironically, that's hard for me sometimes. And it's interesting because of the fact that
but you can learn it though. You can learn it though.
Yeah.
I've seen you talk to people, and you're and I love you. I mean, but you're more than I am.
Yeah, I'm a director,
and that's cool, because this is who you are. This is what you do. But you learned it.
Yeah,
it's possible to learn.
And I think that most of the time I'm actually a very good communicator now, and even show some empathy. But but it can still be difficult, particularly when it's a continuous thing, or when it's a but the first thing I wanted to say before I get a little further into that is that and in my community, as far as like the people that work for me and stuff, is very similar to the military, right? It's because of this, because like my staff grew up with me. They're like my kids to me. Like we fell with our units, right? In the military, when we raised them up, and now all of a sudden they're coming of age, and so it means more obviously than somebody just got to,
Yeah.
And so it's and then what I was going to say is, when I say I have a hard time with it, there's a balance too, isn't there? Right? Because especially in today's world, and I know how you feel about this because I see your posts sometimes, and in today's world, there's a natural proclivity towards weakness, and I don't think that's okay either, right? Like overlooking standards and being, hey, yeah, that's okay. You're like, or insinuating that one's feelings is more important than getting the mission done. I don't think any of that's true either, right? So we have to negotiate that fine line of, well, I guess it comes down to the tough love, just like the military again, right? Like, and it comes down to,
you can have high standards and you can hold people accountable. And that doesn't mean you're screaming at them. It doesn't mean you're calling them a loser. But the people that are going to text you when you don't show up to the gym or class and make fun of you, that doesn't feel like somebody being mean to you. That's accountability, and that's people that are checking up on you. Or if you kind of half-ass something that's important, somebody who really cares about you is going to pay you the compliment of telling you that you half-assed it, and like and that's hard to do it with, especially with peers, but it's so important. And nobody wants to be the bad guy. Nobody wants to have a hard conversation.
Yep.
Nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings, but like, you're not doing them a favor by letting stuff slide, and especially in your setting where the focus is leadership and the focus is martial arts, and if you're giving away black belts like Chuck E. Cheese claw machine prizes, like, you're not doing anybody favors, because you're going to feel like they know all these things, they have this experience, and they don't. You got to earn that stuff, and
so
if you don't earn it, you don't value it.
So right. And that's, I guess that's what I was alluding to, is, of course, we do have a strong culture of, I tell people all the time, and it's very, very true, that if you saw the black belt test when you were a beginner, like, you'd get scared, like the average person would, you haven't been through combat or something, right? Like, you see the black belt test and it would be scary. But by the time you take the black belt test, you're prepared to be the person that can pass the black belt test, and it's not scary anymore.
I stood next to somebody at the last round of belt tests, and she'd never done it before, and she's watching the other adults go through the 2 minutes in the mosh pit, or however long it is, half hour it feels like, you know, and I could tell that she was really anxious about it, and I can't remember, I'm terrible with names, but she was really anxious about it, and I told her, like, look, look, it doesn't matter. Perfect technique doesn't matter. Perfect, concentration doesn't matter. It's do your best. It's, it's always going to be ugly. Nothing ever works perfectly. So as long as you have the concepts and you execute violently and you do the things you're supposed to do. No, it doesn't say that on it. It was close. But just that's the test. Do you keep your head? Do you do generally the right technique? Do you get out of the hole you're supposed to get out of? And if it looks like a bag of cats, I cleaned that one up. Sorry. Did you get out of it? Cool. Then you win. And then she went in a couple of turns later and rocked it. But she would have done that anyway. But like somebody's got to tell you, right. It's going to be all right. And then your son comes over and tells me what I'm not doing correctly, it would be really easy for my 53-year-old rear end to get butthurt about that because he's like 12, not really. Yeah. Love you, Harley. You're awesome. But he's like, he's 12. I mean, he's a kid. He's been training this radically longer than I have. He's way more knowledgeable about this than I am. Why would I not listen to that? Right. Like, why would I let my ego, I think a pretty healthy one, I'm not gonna lie. But why would I let my ego get in the way of actually learning how to do stuff correctly? So he's not coming and telling me how to shoot a handgun. Like, all right, maybe calm down you. But if it comes to martial arts, I'll sit and listen to him talk to me all day. I don't care.
Well, there's another great leadership lesson, right, that you bring up. Like a lot of people fail to bring, again, another balance, right? It's the balance between confidence, but also humility. Right.
Well, that's straight up Army. That's I would like to. I claim no credit for any of this stuff. This is all stuff I learned. Like I either read it in a book, or I learned it from somebody, or I watched somebody screw it up. So none of these are original thoughts. So, but I remember I was a combat engineer, so we always had, 5 or 6 different specialties of soldiers that we were responsible for, and a lot of these guys have been doing this stuff way longer than me, or they haven't been doing it very long at all. They've been like in the Army 3 years, but they've been doing this one thing for 3 years. And I took a 1-hour class on it, and now I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Good luck. So I'll go ask them, like, show me, because they had these bulldozers that looked like a Tonka toy that we used to have. Remember the sea trucks?
Yes, sir.
Oh my God. And it was so cool. And like, these guys were wizards. They could make this thing dance. It was amazing piece of equipment. And like, show me how to use this. So I'll go up to a PFC, and show me how to use this thing. Like this, like, how do you do that? Like, that is a mystery to me. Yeah. And just the giving somebody the respect of recognizing that they have knowledge you don't, or they have expertise you don't. And again, not original thoughts on my part. I'm not a genius, but that buys you so much credibility with them, and they know that if they have something to say, that you're going to listen to them, because you recognize they know what they're talking about in that area of expertise. So it's
I love it.
If you don't pick those things up along the way, you're just going to keep doing dumb stuff.
Love it.
And you're going to fail. So
well, and again, you and I had the same experience. You brought it up that we were Mavericks, we were enlisted first, and so that even helps you get to that faster. But yes, such an important point. I remember that too. I remember the what would happen just by that humility. But I want to comment on something you keep saying too, because I keep agreeing, and obviously I want to make sure to make clear, like you humbly say, none of this is an original idea, that I heard it from someplace else. But here's what really happens, of course you also had some original ideas. The interesting thing is that we realize that we've been learning so much from so many for so long that even the original ideas are the synthesis of the other ideas, right? Like I mean, it's but you certainly have, have done that and brought a lot of things. And it's like, and even that is what, honestly, I think it helps us to be good teachers, right? Because we recognize that there is nothing new under the sun, right? Like everything is a synthesis
I
of
swear to
information.
God, I was about to say that 30 seconds ago. There's nothing new under the sun. Like this, none of this is like, we've been people have the same conversation since Roman legions,
Absolutely.
why is Legionnaire Snuffy so ate up? His sandals are untied. Like, it's the same conversations that have been happening for thousands of years.
I love it.
But if you don't, you got to remember.
I love it. Well, so as we evolve towards the end of this thing, just for the sake of time, let me ask you this. Is there anything now in your capacity as a student at Krav Maga Martial Arts? We've kind of obviously alluded back and forth between the military and that anyway, but as a student and you're a father training with your son in our program, anything specifically you'd like to tell? Because, I think that the people that listen to this are many are also students, but there hopefully are some that aren't yet. So anything you'd like to say to either of those groups about your experience at Krav Maga Martial Arts?
Well, I think like training with my son, like I did training before for a while. I did the Saturday training, the intensives, and loved it. And then I dorked up my shoulder. So I had to take some time off for that. But coming back and doing it with Mac has been just amazing because I get to watch him progress, which is a gift. And then also listening to the training so that I can explain it to him again when we get home, or we can practice at home and do stuff that kind of forces me to take it at a different level.
Wow.
And to pay more attention and stuff like that. So then like I said, I know this much, like, so it's like very little, but it's being able to relay that and go over and kind of help him correct things and but like it's that's been great, and like that's the part of the Army stuff that I miss is the people part. It's not there's so much of it I don't, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But the people part, and that's why I'm envious of you having the team that you have. I miss that a lot. But I think the being able to train it and teach it at a much lower level, and then be able to progress with, because we talk about it the whole way there and the whole way home, and he's just like me, like, he's little, he's inherited my complete lack of athletic ability, because we're nerds. I'm good with that, but we look at the other black belts, and they're not all, none of them are like big hulking like jock types. They're all very physically accomplished and they're all very smart. But the thing that I think has resonated with him is that they're all smart. So you can be a nerd and do and train something physical, and it's an asset to you. That's why Sensei Carolyn, that's the wrong term for her, isn't it now?
Yeah.
Sir, I don't know what's the correct title.
Shihan.
Okay, Shihan Carolyn. Apologies. That's why she's my favorite. Don't tell Thomas. I love him to death because he busts my chops, because I miss that too. But she's got that same, like, she's a computer nerd.
Yeah.
So if I need somebody to explain to me, why does my foot have to be like this instead of like this, she knows how to break it down. And then I use that same process when I explain it to my son, so so you can be not athletic, you can be not, physically super strong, and still do something that's physically difficult and do it well.
I love it. Wow. So again, so much wisdom in what you said. I mean, the one for the masses, of course, is that this is really for everyone, right? Like, anyone can do it. If they want to make the decision, they can do it. But then the other thing that I loved about what you said is that I often talk about in my certified instructor training courses. There's a teaching style that resonates with everyone. So we're really blessed by the fact that we have the ones that are that are like Sean Carolyn, and we have the ones that are like Sensei Thomas, and you know, and we could go through them all. We could go through my entire team, Sensei Charlie and Sensei Mac and Sensei, you know,
Yeah,
and all
they're
of
great.
them.
They're all
But
great. Yeah. I mean, I have
yeah.
and you and I talk enough offline that if I had
Oh,
I
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I know with 100% certainty, if I had an issue or a question about something, like I could walk into your office and close the door
Absolutely.
and tell you, and it would not be
Yeah.
poorly received. Like, and that's a reflection on you. And I'm not kissing butt, you know, so I don't get punched. But you know, it's you know, there's you created that environment, you know, where they can be themselves and play to their strengths and still maintain the standard.
And I'm just blessed that I ended up with all of the different styles, right? Like, because there's even the, you know, there's personality styles, right? A lot of people aren't even aware of them, but there's the different personality styles, and
100%,
people that are like us resonate to us. And so I'm blessed that we have all those different people, so that people can get all the different angles. And as you said, nobody's ever going to have a bad experience with any of them, but there's going to be one that specifically speaks to you, right? And you know, like it's John Carolyn for you. So that's outstanding. Well, this has been amazing, as I expect it would be, Jay. And do you have anything else you'd like to close with at all?
No, man, anytime, anything specifically you want to talk about, like, you know, this is always fun. So, and like, I could sit and talk about this stuff all day, because it's, you know, it makes life, you know, more fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your humility and your leadership, and for taking the time to share all of that with us here today.
Thanks, brother.